Welcome to the Third Wind channel, where today we're talking about American Vandal, a relatively small show, but I love this show so much. You can see it on Netflix, and if you've clicked on this video, I'm sure you've already seen it. So I'm doing a tier list of the characters from both seasons 1 and 2, and just based off of my personal preference. Our tiers are my favorites, very interesting, good, meh, and boring. And without further ado, let's get into it. First off, we got like pretty much the GOAT. From season 1 and 2, we got Peter Maldonado, and I just love his passion for the subject, and you can tell he's passionate for it. And like he's just his detective work is amazing. He's even critical of the ones closest to him, even himself. And I just love how he never gives up on finding out the truth. Next up, we got Miss Shapiro, who I'd like to put down as very interesting. You know, she comes off as quite unlikable, and rightfully so, but I do think she is an interesting character, especially because Dylan ends up like going back to her house and actually vandalizing her, front yard. So I don't know. There's something about Miss Shapiro where you kind of she's written kind of as the bad guy, but is she really? And I don't know. There's some interesting things with her for sure. Next up, we got Lou, who I thought he's either meh or boring. Like I'll put him in meh. Like I get like he's kind of like a hustler and he's helping the Marcus, are kind of like manipulating him, like he's being his friend, but really he wants to use him for getting into a good university or something like that. And I just thought his character was kind of just all right. Obviously he has some problems with his temper as well, but I just didn't find him super interesting. I'll put him in meh. Next we got Kevin, totally in my favorites. Kevin is in a strange way like not relatable, but you can sympathize with him because maybe you have encountered some of the elements that he has. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it, but when the reveal that he was catfished, everything kind of made sense. What it didn't make sense is why he wasn't honest the whole time. But why wouldn't he be? But Kevin, super interesting character. The fact that he's kind of odd, but he appreciates being odd, and he doesn't feel like anyone is bullying him, is great. I don't know. What more can I say about Kevin? Kevin and Dylan are both very good main characters for the seasons. And which one's better? I don't know. We'll get there. Next up, we got what was his name? Wiley, Lucas Wiley. Yeah, I think Lucas Wiley is good. I like him as a bit of a sidekick for Dylan. As for the Wayback Boys in general, I don't think they're that interesting. But Lucas Wiley, I love how his name always gets thrown around. Oh, Lucas Wiley's house, and I don't know, something about that. He's good. Next up, we got Alex Tromboli, and this guy, I know he's one of like not the bad guy in the season, but he's like the annoying kid or whatever. I love Alex Tromboli's character, like how he's like a pathological liar, but at the same time, you're not 100% sure if he's lying. Like if he was a Sarah Pearson that one night, and in the end, it almost made it seem like he saw someone spray painting in the parking lot. He thought it was Dylan, or like I don't know, maybe he's telling the truth about everything and there's just a misconception. I don't know. I think he's a really interesting character, to be honest, and I love how um he's written as maybe like he thinks he's cooler than he is or whatever. But I do really like his character. Next we got DeMarcus, who is like a big fan favorite for me. We could put him in very interesting because I do like that he ends up being one of the victims, and because he is like one of the most popular kids at school and everyone likes him, even then he felt lonely. And I've always been interested in that kind of sense of feeling lonely when you're almost a celebrity. Um, and I thought it was really interesting how he was one of the ones to get catfished, but he ended up being a really good kid, and he really is good to his core. So he's definitely at the very top of very interesting. Next up, we got Mckenzie, who wasn't a very good girlfriend to Dylan and wasn't a very good person kind of generally in the show. Although I do think her character is quite interesting. Her problems with her father, the reveal at the very end that she had Dylan walking into her room during that stream. Um, made for a very interesting character. I don't love how they left her off and just made her seem kind of awful. And for that reason, actually, I kind of want to drop her down to Lou tier. Like she's not interesting in the way that Alex Tromboli is interesting. You know what I mean? Like Alex Tromboli can be painted as a bit of a bad guy, but she just lacks that. She's more like Lou, actually. Maybe I can put her in good, like very bottom of good. Next up, we got Miles, who is a middle schooler who's part of Kevin's band. He's kind of funny, but he's not boring. But I'll put him in meh. Next, we got Dylan, who I think I have to put down as probably the best character in the show. Without Dylan, there is no American Vandal. Just his whole demeanor and just he's so funny. You know, there's so many lines. Like the first one that comes to mind, you know, those Asians, you never know them, and like there's just so many moments where he's just saying the dumbest stuff, and it makes me laugh so hard. And I love his demeanor towards Peter Maldonado, and they're kind of not friendship, but they're working together. And the way he collapses at the end and kind of actually does vandalize was really interesting to me. I don't know. And the back and forth in the season of can you trust Dylan or can you not trust Dylan, that was really well done as well. And I just think that he's really important for the show, and he's one of my favorite characters. I do love the actor as well. He has a YouTube channel, so that's fun. Next up, we got Sarah Pearson, who, for the same reasons that I like Alex Tromboli, I like Sarah Pearson. Like, how truthful is she being? Was there really that night with Alex Tromboli? I like the way people talk about Sarah Pearson in the show as if she's like the most popular girl at school. So all that's very interesting. Next, we got a boring character, just a news anchor who works with Peter. Yeah, nothing special. Then we got Miss Rexler, who I think is a well-written character. Although I wish we got more scenes with her like talking. She's portrayed very secretively, but the idea of a principal kind of getting rid of people or getting rid of problematic characters at the school to keep the school's integrity is very interesting, and I wonder if all that was really her intention. Moving on, we have the janitor, you know, the hot janitor from season 2, as the people at the school called him. I think he's a pretty interesting character. We only get him in one episode, so it's just not super interesting, I guess. But is he a good character? Yeah, sure, whatever. Bottom of good. Next we got what is this guy's name? Is it Trevor? I think we'll say Trevor. I do like how he balances being loyal to his friends and being honest when the time comes for it. So I'll put him as a good character, but you know, he's kind of in the background. He's not super important. Now we got Chloe. I always got the sense that Chloe was hiding something. I don't know what that might have been. Obviously, she was hiding her relationship with Tanner from Kevin. But otherwise, I don't know. I thought she was maybe a little bit underutilized, unless there's some kind of like secret that we never found out about her. So I will put her as very interesting. I do think that her character could have been even better, but there's something there. There's something there that I haven't caught yet. Next up, we got Krista, who has to go down as one of my favorites, because we get left after season 1 with not knowing who did the dicks, and I always thought it was Krista, and I still think it's Krista, but you never know. She's just this really well written character with like everything's correct about her, and like she does these protests, and I know girls like her, and I don't know. I really like Krista's character, so she's gonna go up here for me. And let me just say, I do still think it was her working with someone. Next up, we got what is it, Brandon or something? Yeah, super boring character. Next up, we got Gabby, who I kind of wish she like showed up in season 2. That would be a little bit interesting. In terms of how good of a character she is, she's just good. I like that she is there for Sam, and then when Peter starts questioning Gabby and Sam, I think it's really funny how critical he gets. And overall, yeah, Gabby's all right. Kind of weird, a little bit. Next up, we got Principal Keen. Yeah, that's how I picture a principal reacting to all these events. So, just meh. Not boring, but meh. Next we got, what is this guy's name? Is it Drew? I think it's Drew. I appreciate him. Like, he was one of the ones who got catfished, but he refused to do the heinous crimes. So he lets himself and the baby pictures get exposed, and he gets harassed for it. But he takes it, and I really appreciate that in terms of his character. I gotta put him at the top of good. I can't put him in very interesting because he's not very interesting, but he's good. Next we got Jenna, who, I've got to be honest, her character bored me. Like the episodes that were focused on like her being the turd burglar were quite boring. But yes, she did load the shirt cannons, and she did have, I guess, a good reason for it. She was one of the ones that was catfished, and I did like her kind of belief in that she was finding this girl that was into her and blah blah blah. But I don't know. She came off as a bit of a boring character for me. Next we got, what's her name? She goes by Ganj. Again, boring. I don't think she added too much to the Wayback Boys. And we'll put Spencer here too. No, all respect to the Wayback Boys, but there is no Wayback Boys without Dylan. And I like I said, Lucas Wiley is a little interesting, but these two, they're way in the background. Next we got, what's his name, Mr. Kraz. I think I've seen that this guy is really popular in the fan base, and I have to put him down as quite interesting because what kind of teacher goes out like this and goes behind everyone's back on a recorded film, like all the teachers, exposes everything? Like, he was more into the drama than than he cared about his job. Like, what were his intentions? Like, I don't know. He's just kind of funny as well. I like how he tries to fit in. Mr. Kraz is pretty funny. Moving on, we got Ming, who I'm so tempted to put in as one of my favorites, but I'm gonna put him in very interesting. Ming was part of wasn't he part of one of the, what is it called, the TV6 or something? Like he could have been. I think he had a strong alibi actually. He couldn't have been involved, but I always thought Ming was such a nice character, so fun and friendly, and in the background you see him getting drunk, and it was just amazing. But yeah, next we got Coach Rafferty, who maybe I put at the very top of good or the very bottom very interesting. We'll rebalance later, but Coach Rafferty, I felt like they didn't go in on him hard enough. Like, they exposed a bunch of things about him, but they could have gone in more with the relationship with Mckenzie and what he possibly could have had to do with the Dicks, and maybe he was the target for the Dicks because you had the splatter thing, and yeah, I think there was more there. Very interesting character. Next up, we got, his name was Perry, I think. And I do like how they use him to like kind of figure out if DeMarcus and Lou were playing pranks, because he was the original prankster at the school. Can I put him very interesting? Not really, but I think I'd put him. Mckenzie should probably come up a little bit. Put him like there, maybe. I thought he was a nice character. Next we got what's his name? Paul. Yeah, Paul makes super funny comments in between scenes. I do love Paul. Like, he doesn't go into that very interesting category, but he does go into the good category. He's a good kid. He's got to go in there. Next up, we got Sam. What can I say about Sam? He doesn't have any characteristics that make him very interesting or my favorite, I think, but I do love him as a sidekick for Peter. I can't really picture a better one. We'll put him in my favorites. I feel like he was better in season 2 than he was in season 1. I do also love how he gets so offended when Peter does an honest review of him, and then he does one back to Peter, and how he finds all these pictures where Peter's looking down. It's very funny. So yeah, he earns a spot in my favorites. And now we got 2 characters left, one of which I think is meh. I think he's one of the weaker characters written. Like, season 2, one of the problems is we never get all the relationships fleshed out because there might be a few too many characters. Tanner's one of them. Like, he's huge in the first episode, and then we see him kissing Chloe, and that's never really deeped. Like, it's just kind of, oh yeah, they did that. Boom, done. I don't know. They could have made Tanner a much more interesting character, make him much more involved. But he ended up telling the truth, so you know, props to him for knowing the boundary between friends and you know, exposing crimes or whatever. Maybe it was wrong of him anyway to not confront Peter about it. No, not Peter, for Kevin about it first. But yeah, he comes off as a meh character, but maybe at the top of meh. Next off, we have Grayson, who, you know, spoiler alert, is the villain for season 2. And I think he is one of my favorites, to be honest. I think he's a really great villain. I like the way they paint him. They didn't set him up as well as I would have wanted them to, but it makes sense, everything that happened, and the fact that he catfished all these people also makes sense. Yeah, just overall really great villain. I don't know what else to say about him. I think that if they would have expanded on him a little bit more, maybe it's better, but I do love the way they wrote that last episode and made Grayson the villain. I think it was brilliantly done. But that's my list. I know, I don't know how many people will see this because I don't know how popular the show is. I mean, it has been canceled after all, but I do want to say that I think this is a super unique show, and I recommend everyone check it out. You're not watching this video if you haven't checked it out, but it's really good, and you binge all 16 episodes in one day, and it's I just love these mysteries where things are a little bit more real and the characters aren't super stereotypical. So yeah, great show, loved it. Let me know your favorites and your least favorites, and let me know who you think was the one who drew the dicks. I want to know. Aight. See you guys soon with a new video tomorrow. This has been the Third Wind Channel.